Hello everyone and welcome to the One Stop Co-op Shop. Today we're going to do a playthrough of Widower's Wood. This is the second game in the Undercity series. I don't know if it's really a series, but it uses the same mechanics as Undercity with a few tweaks, but it's a totally different setting. It's in swamp land and outside, and I really like that. And look at what it came as. This is the premium edition. This is literally a wood box. Yeah. And what I'm thinking is, and let me know in the comments below, but I'm thinking of once a month doing one playthrough of the next chapter within this Widower's Wood. There's a total of 7 chapters, and none of it's spoiler free, so it's not like there's things that get spoiled as you go through the chapters. But then that way you can see how the characters grow, because really this game is about character development. And you can totally do it your own way when you play, but that way you can see if this is something that you're interested in. Without further ado, let's set this bad boy up. The first thing you want to do is set up your heroes. I'm going to use 4 heroes in these playthroughs. I think technically you can play with 3, but I couldn't pick just 3. So I'm going to play 4 heroes, and we're going to look at those in detail now. Our first hero here is Creed and Jagger, and what's cool about Creed and Jagger is he's actually 2 heroes. He's 1 as Creed and 2 as Jagger, which is a wolf. So awesome! I love it. What you're going to have over here is this is all of your stats, your strength, intelligence, persistence, defense, and armor, and vitality, which tells you how much health. Since there's 2 minis that are being controlled by 1 hero sheet here, we also have the vitality, persistence, defense, and armor for Jagger as well. You can see our health tokens over here. Creed has these specific special abilities, and Jagger has these specific special abilities. These are the weapons that they come with. We've got a double crossbow and a cleft sword for Creed, and we've got the bite for Jagger, which makes sense. Also, on each hero sheet there is a second wind ability, which helps you get more of your feat cards, and we'll look at the feat cards in a second. You also start with basically a healing potion, alchemical potion, something like that. So make sure to grab one of those for each of your heroes. Now, since there's 2 heroes on this 1 hero sheet, only Creed can use that potion, not Jagger, obviously, because how could Jagger use that? We have to decide before we start playing which ability we want to have Creed using for his wolf call. So you choose one of the following effects at the start of a chapter and the start of each of your turns. Wolf call lasts until the beginning of your next turn. Either reposition. At the end of your turn, you can move Creed or Jagger 1 space. Kill. Jagger can charge this turn. Or savage. Jagger can make 2 bite attacks during an attack action this turn. And I think we're going to do reposition. And I've got this little thing to note it because I have to remember that. The other thing to note is, you see the 17 here? That's his initiative. He is the highest of my heroes, so he'll be a first player, which is why I'm showing you him first. Each hero has a deck of feat cards, and these feat cards, you'll start with 3 out. At the end of each of your turns, you get to draw 1 as long as you're not incapacitated. They have abilities either the top or the bottom that you can use. Some can be played at any time, and some can be played only on their turn. We'll see how these work through the playthrough. Here's Vasquez, the Knot Keeper. He is a spellcaster, so he casts spells. So these are all about his different spells that he can cast. He starts with a Volge as his weapon. His initiative is 13. He has his second wind here that if he doesn't use any feat cards, he gets to draw back up to 3. He has 6 health, and here's his healing potion as well. And what's really important is defense and armor. So his defense is 14 and his armor is 13. And as you can see here, we have set up his 3 feat cards that are available to him right away, and here is his feat deck. Here we have Skarg the Voracious. His initiative is only 8, so that's why he's after Vasquez. He has defense of 12 and armor of 14, but he does have 8 health instead of 6 like the other 2. And he has 2 weapons. One that's ranged, the Tharn Bow, has a range of 2, and one that's a bow spikes, which is a range of 0. He's got a second wind that once per game, when he incapacitates a villain with a melee attack, he gets to draw feat cards until he has 3. We have to decide an archery skill for Skarg at the beginning, and I think the one that we're going to do is a precise shot, which will allow him to roll an additional die on your first range attack and damage roll this turn. Drop the lowest die. So that's awesome. He gets to roll 3. He gets to pick the 2 highest ones to use. I like it. He's also got Fast Draw and Blur of Motion, but I think that's probably the best one, for now at least. Here we have his feat cards set up and ready to go. Here we have Agatha. So Agatha's initiative 5, really slow. So at the end, she does have 8 health though. Let's see, she has 2 kataras, which is awesome. So when she does a melee attack, she can attack 2 times with both of her kataras. Her second win is if she ends her turn in a space with 4 more villains, she can draw up to 3 fate cards. And then we have to choose one of these great strengths abilities at the beginning of the game, or the beginning of the chapter. So she can choose either March, where she can ignore rough terrain, or she can ignore resilient flesh and effects that reduce damage. Oh, that takedown is cool. Or Savagery, when you perform an attack, you can make an attack against every other character, including friendly characters in that space. And right now, I think we're just going to March and ignore rough terrain, which is going to be really useful. Finally, we have set up her feat cards. She's got her 3 feat cards ready to rock, and we're set to go for our heroes. Here we have how to set up the game for this first chapter. So over here, it tells us which enemies to use and which initiative numbers that they're going to have. So each round when we spawn, we're going to roll a black die, and if we roll a 1, a Misspeaker is going to spawn. If it's a 2, we're going to have one of these goblins spawn. If it's a 3 through 6, it would be a Bogtrog. Now, I am playing with a Kickstarter version, so I am adding in one additional enemy. It's called the Blowgun Bogtrog, and Thomas from Board Game Geek, he did a session, and I'll put a link on it, a session of what he used and how he set it up, and I'm just going to use his because I think it looks awesome. So I'll put that link. You guys can read that and look at how he set it up, but that's how we're going to do it. So there's just going to be a slight change on a couple things, and I'll show you where that is. We also set up the board with all these specific tiles, and that's the other thing I'm changing. I'm going to use the fall tiles instead of the green tiles, so you'll kind of see it has a little more color. I think it looks a little better on camera. You can be able to see the different types of terrain. And then it also shows you where specific starting characters should be. So we'll start here. We've got 2 Bogtrogs here and a Misspeaker, and then a Bogtrog here and a Bogtrog here. The only thing that we're changing is we're going to put in a Blowgun Bogtrog. Let's see, I think it's one right here. That's what we're going to do. Over here, it tells us about our side quests. Each chapter will have a specific side quest. This one, we have to randomly select one loot card to be put as the only side quest for this chapter. So here's our side quest. These are only loot side quests, and we're going to grab this one, and we'll place that on the board. The villain deck, it tells you what specifically to put in based on 3 or 4 players. The only thing that's different is we're adding 2 of these Blowgun Bogtrog cards that are Kickstarter specific, 1 and 2, that will activate up to 2 Blowgun Bogtrogs closest to you. Just because since we're having Blowgun Bogtrogs in it, we need some way to activate it. Also, here in the event deck, we are supposed to use these specific 8 cards. 4 of them have no effect, so I removed 2 of them that have no effect and added in these Stalkers and Pursuers, and they're going to activate the 2 Blowgun Bogtrogs. Once again, just making it a little more difficult and a little more fun. But our event deck is one of the ways that there's a timer for this game. With this event deck, if we ever run out of the cards here and there's only 8, we lose the game. So we essentially have 8 rounds to complete this game. Here we have the information for the specific chapter we're doing. Chapter 1, It Takes a Village. Now, there's a bunch of flavor text in here, which really adds to the theme of the game. And if you would like to hear this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a separate video because there's actually a 4-page long prologue that goes into this full story. And so if you are planning on watching all 7 videos of this, I suggest you watch that, the video that I'm going to do with the prologue and the flavor text for this specific chapter. But if you're just looking at gameplay, not gonna bother you with having you watch that. I'm just gonna explain this part, how the gameplay, how this specific chapter ends, and how you have victory or defeat. Otherwise, though, I'll put in the description the link to the video of me reading the prologue and the additional part for this chapter, the chapter flavor text. So the difference for this gameplay is we're going to use the clock tile near the villain reserve, and then whenever a Misspeaker is incapacitated before the finale, place 1 XP on the clock in addition to any XP added to the treasury. If there are no misspeakers in play at the beginning of a round, spawn a misspeaker after drawing an event card. Roll a die to determine the misspeaker's spawning location. So it's going to force us to get misspeakers out, and then we have to defeat essentially 2 misspeakers, because each misspeaker is going to be worth 2 XP. Defeat 2 misspeakers, and then we'll move to the finale. So once the clock has 4 XP on it, spawn both of the Epic Club Gatormen during the next hero spawning phase, in addition to the villain's normal spawn. Roll separately to determine their locations, and then after spawning the Club Gatorman, return the XP tokens from the clock to the XP bank. So we lose that XP essentially. Then these Club Gatormen are significant villains that activate at Initiative 1. They are also activated by villain action cards normally, and they are epic. So that means you're going to use the epic side of the card, and I'll show you that later on in the setup video. Now, victory or defeat. How do we win or lose? The chapter ends and the party loses if every hero is incapacitated or passed out. Also, they don't mention it here, but if the event deck runs out and we're supposed to draw an event and we can't, we also lose. We do win if both the Epic Club Gatormen are incapacitated, and then we get to add 1 XP to the treasury for each battle-ready hero. Nice. Here we have the villain action deck, and if ever that empties, we just reshuffle it. We have our event deck, and that one is our timer. This is scenario specific, so remember, every time we defeat a misspeaker, we put the XP we earned here up to 4 XP, and that's when those Epic Club Gatormen come out. And then all other XP will go here, and we'll get to use that XP at the end of this chapter, as long as we win, to upgrade our abilities. So here we've set up our index tokens, and these index tokens are going to be used for when we spawn. So, for example, if I roll a 3, that means we're going to summon a Blowgun Bogtrog. So this just tells us which ones we'll summon when we roll, and then these are all the extra minis up here of each type. And then remember, all of them I'm playing on the non-epic, except for the Gatorman. We're having an Epic Club Gatormans that we have to defeat at the end. So here's the board all set up. I don't know about you guys, but I think it looks awesome. I think the fall colors too really help bring in some color onto the board. We have our 4 heroes here plus our wolf for 5. We've got our spear Bogtrogs on either side here. 1 spear Bogtrog here, 1 blowgun Bogtrog right there, our misspeaker. And I think we're ready to rock. Oh yeah, our side quest over here, don't forget that. That is the setup for Chapter 1. Hope you guys are excited. Let's get to the playthrough.